seasoning your burrs is kind of a misnomer. I think it's been named incorrectly. What we're really talking about is breaking in the burrs. Or if you want to get technical, it's meshing in, or bedding in, or output normalization, cutting surface tuning, surface conditioning, initial wearing in phase, or even micro abrasion stabilization. Whatever you call it, the goal is the same: getting your burrs to settle into consistent performance. Now, you're likely watching this video as you've just bought a brand new grinder, or perhaps a new set of burrs, and you're thinking about it, right? Or maybe you're just a big coffee geek like me. Well, I am here to tell you to season your burrs. Or don't. But just know that it does make a difference if you do, especially with flat burr grinders. Now, also be patient with it. These things don't hit their stride straight out of the box. They need a little bit of time and a few kilos of coffee to settle in. And then the grinder behaves the way it's meant to. How much? Well, around 2 to 5 kilograms. By 2 kilos, you'll certainly start noticing a difference, and by 5 kilograms, the grinder is on its way to being settled in. Not a conspiracy, not a trend, just how machinery works. And I know this because I've reviewed over 75 grinders. And I actually thought that number was like in the hundreds, but I'll take 75. I've also had to replace burrs in commercial cafes and experienced what happens when you go from completely worn out burrs to factory fresh. And then you have to get through that awkward teenage phase before everything just clicks. Then there's this sweet spot in the burrs that they hit after the initial wear-in period. They're not brand new, they're not dull, just settled. It's when the grinder becomes reliable, consistent, predictable. And that's what we're chasing. Segue into Ad Hoc Brew Point's loyalty program, Shill. Point to the right of screen. Mention that the link's in the description. All right, let's get into it. What's really happening with new burrs? Let's unpack what's going on here. When burrs are manufactured, now, this is not a blanket statement, as some burrs require more or less wearing in, depending on the size of the burrs, but especially high-end coated ones too. Think titanium nitride or red speed. That kind of thing, they leave the factory with microscopic imperfections. Not bad machining, just a side effect of the tooling process. So when you first start grinding on a grinder, super sharp edges aren't cleanly slicing the beans. I don't know, they're kind of shredding them, and this leads to a very unpredictable grind result. More fines than you want, maybe some unexpected boulders too, and the grind distribution is all over the place. So you know that feeling when you have a brand new grinder and your espresso is pulling wildly and nothing seems to fix it. You go finer on the setting, too fast still. You go finer again, now it's choking, all right? So you go back to your original setting and suddenly that's too fine now too. That inconsistency, that's a grinder that hasn't settled. What is grind distribution? Let's quickly cover this. When coffee's ground, it doesn't all come out as identical little particles of the same size. There are ranges from the fines, which is the dusty stuff in your dose, to the boulders. They're the chunkier bits of your dose, but the goal is to minimize both of these and maximize the sweet spot. That is the range that actually extracts well and is the setting that you've chosen on your grinder. Unseasoned burrs completely mess with that. They're unpredictable. The grind setting that you've used, that you dialed in yesterday, might give you a total different flow and grind distribution today. Until those burrs are worn in, it's like chasing a moving target on your grind dial. Why it matters for taste and consistency. This isn't just about being picky. Burr seasoning directly affects how the coffee tastes. As with a new grinder early on, you might be fighting through under-extracted, bitter, or uneven brews. But as the burrs season, the grind stabilizes, the extraction evens out, and the coffee just starts making sense. And there is real data behind this, as seasoned burrs produce better grind by ensuring that distribution of the grind is at its peak performance. And then that way, extraction times settle down and you stop wasting coffee trying to guess what went wrong. And let me proceed with the irony. As if you've just unboxed a new grinder, run a couple of kilos of beans through it. Waste them. No, you don't have to waste them. You can use them for cold brew or into your garden. But don't get too precious about dialing in before you do this. They don't have to be throwaway beans, but maybe don't waste a $50 bag of beans. Any roasted beans will do, though do avoid oily beans for seasoning and certainly no RDT. Just keep it clean, dry, boring. Honestly, you want the burrs doing the hard work, not slipping around or gumming up the grinder in the process. And make sure to check the manufacturer's duty cycle. This is critical, especially if you're running 2 to 5 kilograms through the grinder. And this does make it difficult with the emergence of single dosing grinders. Some grinders are only rated for 90 seconds operation on and 90 seconds rest time off. Push past that and you do risk overheating the motor and tripping thermal cutoffs. So do take your time and pace it out. Use a medium grind setting as this reduces strain on the motor, and don't choke the grinder with beans. In between doses, give the grinder a little time to breathe, as that downtime helps the motor and the internal parts stay cool and prevents wear from building up unevenly. By the 2 kilo mark, the burrs will be much smoother and the grind will be way more consistent than from brand new. And then you'll be able to trust the settings. By 5 kilograms, it's pretty well properly settled in. Now, this is where things get frustrating, especially for home users. You spend hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars on a grinder, and now I'm telling you to burn through $100 worth of beans just to get this thing right. Yeah, I get it. Not great. Some manufacturers, like Eureka, they have actually pre-seasoned burrs in the factory, which is fantastic. Until a customer then receives their new grinder, opens the box, sees some grinds in the chute, thinks the unit's been used, and returns it. Returns happen, refunds get processed, and it's messy. But honestly, if you open a grinder and do see a little bit of coffee dust in there, that might be the best thing for you. It means that grinder is already halfway to broken in. Now, I do have 3 grinders in front of me today. Let me explain what they are and why I've got them here. I have the Niche Zero. Now, in my experience, it's a 63mm conical burr that has required less wearing in than most other grinders I've experienced. It's quite easily out of the box, pretty decent. I would say maybe 500 grams, maybe a kilo, and it's pretty consistent. Something like the Timor Sculptor. It's a 64mm burr, flat burr. So this is conical. This is a 64 flat burr. This, and grinders of this size, and there's quite a lot of them on the market, I would say requires between the 2 to 5 kilograms. You can get it up to 2 and start using it fine. 5, and you don't ever have to worry about it again. I wouldn't imagine you have any problems with the grind settings after 5 kilograms. But majority of the grinders coming out onto the market, minimum 2 kilograms. Now, there are certainly some grinders at the lower end of the spectrum where I don't even know if grind distribution is a concern. I mean, perhaps, they might be fairly wild in general anyway, so the difference between seasoning the burrs and non-seasoned burrs might just be kind of like anyone's guess. And I do also have the Comandante C60. Now, the reason I have this grinder, it's just kind of like an experience of mine, is because you can kind of actually tell when burrs are dull. And on the opposite end of that, you can tell when burrs are brand new and sharp, because these burrs coming out of the C60, man, they're sharp. These guys, these babies are incredibly sharp. Like, love that noise, by the way. I'm being so careful. Now, they're still used. They have been used, rather. But when I first took the C60 burrs out of the box, and I was kind of like, obviously they're a brand new set of, a brand new grinder. There was a lot of hype about it. Look, I can still feel the edge to these. These are like razor edged, to the point where I remember running my thumb down the edge of the burrs yeah, it's still almost there, man. And like it literally cut into my thumb like 5 paper cuts straight across my thumb. Started to bleed. I was like, yeah, I'm not messing around with them again. Like the machine precision on these burrs coming out of Comandante are fantastic, but I would also suggest that you probably, with most hand grinders, I mean, 2 to 5 kilograms with hand grinders is a lot of beans because you're doing all the work. But I would say 500 grams. It's not as bad as 2 or 5 kilograms, isn't it? 500 grams on maybe like a medium to medium fine setting because it's only you, so you don't have a motor to ruin. But I would probably recommend at least 500 grams with a hand grinder before you can imagine the seasoning part of it settles down. I don't feel like it is as critical as grinders with motors in them, but I guess that hasn't been my overall experience either. I would just season all burrs I get every time I go to do a review. Quick side note, there is one more thing that can mess up your grind results, and that is alignment. If your burrs aren't aligned precisely, you might find one specific grind setting behaves strangely while the other settings around it are just fine. That's an alignment issue, not a seasoning one. But the bigger picture here is that seasoning the burrs is about speeding up that process of getting to the sweet spot of the grinder. It won't fix misaligned grinders, but it will make a good brand new grinder better, faster. So, do you need to season your burrs? No. But here's something that does take a whole lot less effort. Keep a quick log of your grinder and what grind setting you use and the extraction times, and I bet over a period of time, you'll start to see things move around but then level out. And then that's your cue that the burrs are ready. Now, if you want to skip all the annoying early phase where your grinder is acting like a toddler with too much sugar, then yeah, it is totally worth seasoning your grinder. Don't overthink it. Put the kilos through, let it wear in, then you can start tasting what your grinder is really capable of. Thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you found it useful, give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as we've got more great content on its way. And see you in the next video.